You do not need to hustle to make money as a coach, but you do have to work hard. And I really want to take the time on today's episode to break that down, especially because the coaching industry is evolving. The market has shifted. Let's just call a spade a spade. And if you're finding what used to work isn't cutting it anymore, or if you're just starting out and wondering why it's feeling harder than it looks, you're not imagining this episode is for you. And I want to start by sharing the shifts I'm seeing in the industry and what that means for you before I dive into breaking down the difference between hustle and hard work and what hard work is actually needed to build a coaching business. So ever since social media, and especially 2020, I really have seen the coaching industry skyrocket. I think mental health and coaching is bigger and more visible than ever before. And that's a good thing, but there are also way more coaches, more buyers, and more noise. And with that growth comes a shift in buyer psychology. So the days of posting here and there or sharing a personal story or sending a few DMs and landing a $5,000 client, those are mostly gone. I'm not saying it can't happen because we all have warm and hot leads and early adopters, right? But in general, I've noticed that buyers are more discerning than before. They're more cautious when it comes to buying life coaching because they're being sold to constantly on every single platform, every single time they touch their phone or computer. And so what they're really looking for is safety before they buy. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying it to set you free from these unrealistic expectations that are just going to leave you feeling doubtful and disappointed and just really help you focus on what actually works in today's market. And I know some coaches are feeling frustrated with these changes. I'll be honest, I was definitely one of them, so I get it, especially if you started when getting traction felt easier, like I did way back in like 2016, 2017. But instead of resisting the shift and scrambling to do more and trying to fix it, what if you just identified and focused on doing the right things? So not doing all the things, but doing the right things, the things that actually worked. Because what people are calling hustling, 37 posts a week, paid ads with no strategy, throwing more money, hiring a VA, sending 1,000 emails, is exactly what's keeping them and potentially you stuck versus actually making an income and an impact. So let's break it down. What's the difference between hustle, what I just described, and hard work? Because even though they're used interchangeably, they are different. Hustle, I think, is frantic, okay? It's this externally driven, scrappy energy. It's about more, faster, now, quicker, and there's often no clear direction outside of the immediate goal. It thrives on urgency and scarcity, and I need this right now. And it really ascribes to the mindset that if you're not constantly out there grinding and hustling, you're falling behind. And it says that your busyness is a badge of honor. And that's cute, but it's not sustainable, okay? So that's hustling. Let's talk about hard work. Hard work, on the other hand, is way more purposeful. It's strategic and it's sustainable. I've been in the industry for a long time. We've had a lot of iterations of our business and we have ebbed and flowed with the changes in the industry because we've built a sustainable business strategy, right? It's about showing up consistently. It's about being smart with your time and protecting your energy so that you can actually grow, not just survive. And although both hustle and hard work require effort, here's what the science says and why it's important to distinguish between the two and focus more on hard work than hustle. Hustle leads to burnout, point blank. So research from psychology, neuroscience, organizational behavior, all of it tells us that when we operate in chronic overdrive, stress, urgency, performance suffers. Decision fatigue kicks in, creativity drops, exhaustion takes over, and your cortisol is just going to spike through the roof and negatively impact your decision making. And I have personally seen this in clients and colleagues and even in myself. High capacity people who are totally depleted, not from the work itself or the coaching itself, but from the mental load of always trying to do more and do all the things versus focusing on what actually works. I remember last year in the beginning of 2024, I had a coaching call with my business mentor at the time, and I was frustrated with the stagnation I was seeing in my numbers. And she was walking me through my business strategy and realized and coached me through this, that it wasn't a lack of strategy, but more so me capping out in terms of my capacity. It was being challenged because I was doing too much. I was doing too much of things that actually didn't create results, leaving me resentful resentful and confused and overwhelmed and frustrated versus stopping, doing an evaluation, and doubling down on what actually was working. And within 3 months of pausing and evaluating and pivoting, I was able to go from one of my lowest months in my business to one of my highest months in my business from the past 7 years. So let's talk about what this hard work actually looks like in practice, the kind that leads to results, guys, okay? So I mentioned this just in my story a second ago. It does include knowing your numbers. It does include consistent and effective strategy and visibility. It includes operating as a CEO, not just an employee. And it includes strategic rest, which was something that I learned hard last year. Let's go one by one, starting with knowing your numbers. No more guessing, no more hoping, no more working without strategy. You are a business owner, and so you know your numbers and you know what works and you track your effort. Listen, I get it. Becoming a coach is such a gift that this is even an option available to us in 2025, but it is so different from other professions because when you decide to become a coach, you're also deciding to become a business owner. And you have to not only learn how to coach, but you have to learn all these other skills, including marketing, sales, and bookkeeping, and nurturing your audience and public speaking. And part of running a successful business is knowing your numbers. And it doesn't matter what type of business you run, whether you sell beanies, socks, bananas, or life coaching. To run a successful business, you have to know your numbers. So for example, how many outreaches have you done this week? How many sales conversations do you have open? How many consults have you booked in the last 30 days? How many paid clients have you landed in the last 90 days? And what is your winning strategy? And how much effort is actually needed to hit your goals? Knowing these numbers is going to prevent you from ignorant business planning that leaves you feeling confused and defeated. So that's knowing your numbers. Let's talk about number 2, consistent and effective strategy and visibility. You have to show up not just when you need to make money or when you feel motivated. You have to show up and serve way before you're launching, way before you're making an offering. This builds credibility. This is going to keep you top of mind awareness, and this is going to help you add value in a way that provides these mini transformations for your ideal clients before they even buy. I want you to think of your social media as like a living, breathing website, right? I want you to think of it as a billboard. I want you to think of it as a Google search engine. This is an opportunity for people to get to know you, hear things differently at different times, and see you in different capacities and consume information. That way, when they're ready, they remember you. I always tell people this is how you know that you are showing up consistently and effectively, is that your copy is so good that when you get on a consult with a client, it's more of a formality. They're already sold. Okay, that's the goal here. So know your numbers, consistent and effective strategy and visibility, and then CEO time. What do I mean by that? You want to work on your business, not just in your business. This means knowing your winning strategy, knowing your goals, knowing your numbers, analyzing and evaluating elements of your business so that you can remain efficient and strategic. And speaking of strategy, you also need to have strategic rest. Because rest is not a luxury. We are a helping profession. We are a service-oriented career field. We are so much a part of that change process. And it is very important and career sustaining to take time off. It is a leadership skill. You cannot give what you don't have. Be a model, not a martyr. All right. You can't help anyone burned out. So be proactive. Have good boundaries with your time. Have good boundaries with your tasks. Have good boundaries with your clients to protect your most valuable asset, you. So as you can see, I'm not saying don't work hard. Running a business is hard. Let's just call a spade, but you are totally capable of doing it. And it's going to be way more sustainable if you work hard versus hustle. So if you're newer and trying to sign your first few clients, your most important income producing activities, or your IPAs, are connecting and posting. Meet new people, start conversations, share value, make offers. You don't need to be on 20 platforms and have this super sexy, elaborate, expensive funnel. All you need is connection and consistency. And if you're more experienced and things are slowing down, it's not that you're not working, it's that your systems aren't working anymore and that they're not scalable. So your hard work becomes evaluation. Your hard work becomes about efficiency. And your hard work becomes about letting go what is no longer effective. And that is so freaking hard, especially if it got you results in the past. I know for me, I am so slow to let go of things that worked in the past. I will try and try and try again. And I have wasted so much time and money on letting go of things that are no longer working and just evaluating and adopting to what the industry is requiring now. And I've noticed that most coaches I work with aren't necessarily tired or fatigued. They're tired from the mental fatigue of doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually move the needle and create sustainable growth, which low-key is the real flex, guys. It might not be as sexy as 10x growth, but I will say this, success that looks good but feels awful is not sustainable. You're not going to be able to do it long term. And as a former therapist and recovering perfectionist, I understand why hustle can feel exciting and productive because it gives us this sense of control, but it is a trap. I've been there. Real sustainable growth that compounds and lasts, comes from strategic hard work, not hustle. I'm proud to say that our business has grown about 10 to 20% every single year for the last 6 of 7 years. Some of you might not think that's great, and that's okay, but think about it this way. We have had steady growth every single year that has amounted to a 60% growth, which is great for any company. And that doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things and focusing on our winning strategy and getting better over time. We focus, we refine, we track, we rest, and we pivot when need be. So here's your homework. Pick one thing from today's episode and try to implement it this week. Maybe it's tracking your numbers. Maybe it's setting aside a CEO day. Maybe it's delegating something that's not adding to the bottom line or it's taking you away from your winning strategy. Maybe it's asking for help. It doesn't matter what it is, but remember, you don't need to hustle and do all the things to be successful. But you do need to show up and you do need to work hard. But working hard means being intentional and consistent so that you can show up and do what you do best, which is coach. And if you want help building a sustainable, science-backed coaching business with systems and strategies on both the back end and the front end, I can help. The Art and Skill of Coaching is closed till the fall, but our waitlist is open. So definitely go ahead and get on that so you can stay up to date on important announcements. And also my one-on-one coaching schedule actually just opened up. So if you want individualized support for your life and your business, definitely book a consult. I'll throw the link in the show notes so that we can talk about what's next for you. But if this episode was helpful, I would love for you to leave us a review or share it with your coaching community. Your support helps the podcast continue to grow and gets this information in the hands of coaches who are eager to learn and grow and provide even better, more effective, valuable coaching with less hustle. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode to help you master the art and skill of coaching.